The Great War on the Tian Nan border was incredibly brutal. The Mulan people's summons were unstoppable. The cultivators of Tian Nan were in full retreat. It seemed that even with Han Li's spirit descending to possess someone, they were unable to break free and rescue the trapped cultivators. Luo Han spoke in a low voice. He played the final trump card up his sleeve. Release the Yin-Yang twin fiends. A cultivator from the Hewan sect, who had been waiting on standby behind Luo Han, immediately acknowledged the order and left. After a commotion stirred within the crowd, one black and one white, two eerie coffins were carried out. 16 male disciples of the Hewan sect and 16 female disciples emerged, forming a ritual formation. They surrounded the two coffins and sat down cross-legged. At the same time, they formed hand seals and chanted incantations, casting out various colored magical seals, and began the final steps of the unsealing ritual. During the ritual, on the black and white coffins, the talismans began to tremble without any wind, and from inside the coffins came a scraping sound, like the sound of limbs striking the coffin walls. Upon hearing this, Luo Han felt the corner of his eye twitch. Regarding the legends of the Hewan sect's Yin-Yang twin fiends, he had indeed heard a few. It was said that, while they were alive, these two demonic masters were a dual cultivation elder from a certain generation of the Hewan sect. For some reason, their cultivation went astray. But later, for some unknown reason, they betrayed the Hewan sect, and they switched to practicing demonic arts. They even cultivated the body of a living corpse. Later, the two of them felt their cultivation had greatly advanced, so they attacked the Hewan sect once more, and they killed and injured over 100 disciples of the Hewan sect. But in the end, they were still captured alive by the many elders of the Hewan sect working together. Captured alive, and using some ancient secret art, their consciousness was erased. They were refined into the legendary Yin-Yang demonic masters. It is said that the divine abilities of these masters are immense, even more powerful than when they were alive. Long Han was contemplating this. The eerie sounds from within the coffin grew louder and louder. Meanwhile, the talismans on top, as spells were cast upon it, kept falling off, becoming fewer and fewer. The 30 Hewan sect disciples surrounding the coffin did not stop their chanting, but looks of unease began to appear on their faces. Every one of them, with flickering eyes, stared intently at the remaining talismans on the coffin. With the soft sounds, the last talismans finally fell off and drifted down at the same time. All the Hewan sect disciples, as if granted a great amnesty, immediately jumped to their feet and scattered in all directions, fleeing with great speed. But right at that moment, two coffins burst open at the same time. A foul wind surged. One black and one white, two blurry figures, flew out swiftly from the shattered coffins and chased off in different directions in a flash. The two slowest disciples, a man and a woman, suddenly let out blood-curdling screams. The two figures pounced on them in an instant and bit through their throats in a single strike. They then began to greedily suck the essence blood of the two disciples. Seeing this, the other fleeing disciples of the Hewan sect actually let out a great sigh of relief and halted their escape arts. When the cultivators from the other sects saw this scene, their expressions couldn't help but change drastically. It's alright. Now that the twin demons have absorbed the essence blood of a young man and woman, they won't lash out and harm anyone else. An old man with disheveled hair walked out from the crowd and said without a change in his expression. Then he raised both his hands, revealing two jade-green runic bronze tablets. He aimed them at the two figures lying on the corpses and waved them abruptly. Two gray threads of light swiftly sank into the two figures, entering their heads and disappearing without a trace. The twin demons' bodies trembled, and they stopped sucking blood, and slowly stood up, and suddenly floated towards the crowd of cultivators. It was only then that the cultivators clearly saw the faces of the pair. At the sight, they all gasped in surprise. These so-called Yin-Yang demons turned out to be a handsome young man and a beautiful young woman. The man was well built with bright eyes. The woman was beautiful and elegant. Their complexions and skin were just like those of living people. It was just that their four eyes were somewhat vacant. If it weren't for the corners of their mouths, which still had droplets of blood stains that hadn't been wiped away, one might have mistaken them for an ordinary pair of cultivation partners. However, as the two of them drew near, a faint, indescribable stench of corpses wafted over. The astonishment in everyone's hearts finally dissipated. The old man took the bronze medallion from Lin Li Wang's hand and abruptly infused it with power. Instantly, the bronze medallion emitted rings of gray light, directly enveloping the pair of demons. The figures of the Yin-Yang demons became completely still. Meanwhile, the old man rapidly chanted an incantation. The bronze medallion in his hand gently floated up. Suddenly, the old man cast 2 magical seals onto the bronze medallion. A gray beam of light as thick as a thumb shot out from the medallion, and in a flash, it vanished into the foreheads of the man and woman, vanished without a trace. The 4 eyes of the twin beasts suddenly erupted with golden light. The disheveled elder put away the command token. He pointed a finger towards the distant, handsome azure bird, and commanded coldly. The yin-yang pupils spun slightly. Their bodies reeked of a damp, foul stench. A great baleful aura surged from them. Suddenly, the 2 beasts stood side by side, and transformed into a gust of green wind, whistling away. Its direction was precisely where Mulan Shanking was located. The cultivators immediately breathed a sigh of relief, facing such monsters that devoured the life essence and blood of living people. Standing right in front of them, it was enough to make anyone shudder with fear. The green wind transformed from the beasts seemed illusory and slow, but its speed was extremely fast. Halfway there, it became faint and formless. Gradually, it vanished from sight, completely disappearing without a trace. The others all wore looks of astonishment. They couldn't help but glance at the disheveled elder who controlled the twin lions. They saw that this person's expression was normal, showing no change whatsoever. At this, the other cultivators exchanged a glance, and they all began to calm down. Meanwhile, on the battlefield near the mage's side, the giant azure bird was unhurriedly unleashing demonic fire, completely suppressing the 7 elders. In a situation where it could utilize the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the accursed bird effortlessly gathered the fire spiritual energy from miles around, and gathered it all around itself, and easily converted it into the azure demonic flame it cultivates, barely consuming any of the spiritual power within its own body. And the longer this dragged on, the fire spiritual cha that it could utilize actually grew even more abundant. This is the deity transformation stage, the absolute difference between this stage and the realms below it. Otherwise, that cultivator from Tian Nan who reached the deity transformation stage back then would not have been able, in such a short period of time, to sweep across the entire Tian Nan region, without fearing being besieged by multiple opponents. At first, the 7 cultivators of Tizen could still use the power of the ancient treasure in their hands to tangle with this demon bird for a time. But as time went on, not only was their demon trapping formation broken, they were instead trapped within the raging flames. Now they can only defend themselves and are in grave danger. The demon bird suddenly stopped spewing flames from its mouth. Its eyes flashed with a golden glint as it glanced from side to side, as if it had sensed something. Suddenly, it let out a clear cry. The bird spread both its wings. A halo of azure light suddenly rose from its body, radiating out in all directions, instantly enveloping everything within a radius of hundreds of yards, with a sizzling sound, rising in a valley green smoke within an aura of light. Then, the yin-yang twin demons, in a cloud of, revealed their forms within an ethereal green smoke. They were just about to pass over the bird's head, and escape from there. Their concealment technique was discovered. The twin demons immediately let out a sharp cry. After a tumble, both of their bodies suddenly expanded. They became 20 feet tall, taking on the appearance of red-haired, green-faced ghouls. With a flick of their index fingers, they shot out dozens of gray threads of light, aiming directly at the green bird. The green bird was stunned for a moment. Then, seeing the 2 demons attack, it let out a furious cry. It immediately opened its mouth and spewed out a thick pillar of cyan fire. At the same time, it flapped its wings, and a great hurricane arose from the sea of fire below, raising cyan waves of flame over 100 feet high, sweeping the 2 demons directly into them. It's unknown what cultivation technique the yin-yang twin demons practiced. Although they were at a great disadvantage, the wisps of damp mist emitting from their bodies did not fear those cyan demonic flames, and they actually withstood most of the assault. With the pressure on the 7 masters of Tizen reduced, their spirits were immediately lifted, and they once again linked their 7 treasures together, and began to show its might once more. Just when most people thought the twin demons would join forces with the cultivator to deal with the Mulan sacred bird, after they exchanged a couple of moves, the twin demons suddenly flashed with a gray light. After a feint, they dodged left and right, slipping out from under the giant bird, and in a flash, broke through the sea of fire's encirclement, rushing straight towards the ancient lamp not far away. The woman with the surname Yue was standing guard beside the ancient lamp. Upon seeing this, her expression showed no sign of panic. She cast a spell seal onto the ancient lamp. Instantly, the 9 ancient lamps lit up. At the same time, another lamp flame flew out. Seeing the twin demons charging towards her, the 9 lamp flames spun around and suddenly expanded, transforming into 9 small azure birds. As they flapped their wings, their bodies glowing with a clear, vibrant light, they swarmed towards the twin demons. The twin demons, however, were exceptionally fierce. They spat out a gray mist, and their forefingers transformed into a shadowy marsh, instantly enveloping the fire birds within it. After a flash of gray light, the 9 fire birds were torn to shreds by the shadowy marsh. But, in that brief moment, the giant bird in the air suddenly turned its head. A large cloud of azure mist spewed from its sharp beak, with the speed of a thunderclap, instantly sweeping the 2 demons' bodies inside. It actually dragged the yin-yang demon master back into the sea of flames in an instant. Seeing this, Taizen Chezu couldn't help but feel a jolt in his heart. Just then, the distant withered beast elder saw this, and after a slight smile, he turned and whispered something to the woman in black robes. The gaze of the woman in black robes shifted. She scanned the entire battlefield. Both the mages and the cultivators were showing signs of exhaustion. Only then did she nod calmly. Her lips moved slightly, issuing a command. A group of black-robed figures immediately flew out from the mages' formation. These people formed a single line. Each of them had bulging waists, hung with 7 or 8 pouches. The woman in black robes opened her mouth and spat out an exceptionally exquisite small banner. This banner was only about 2 inches long, emitting a faint black glow. But once it was tossed into the air, it swelled in the wind to about 10 feet in size. The woman pointed a finger coldly at the artifact. The black banner trembled. Then, its entire body flickered with a black radiance, transforming into a streak of dark light and soaring into the sky. It vanished without a trace in the blink of an eye. A moment later, a sinister wind began to howl across the entire battlefield. Dark clouds gathered heavily, blocking out most of the sunlight. The area below became dark and gloomy. All the fighting cultivators saw this, and couldn't help but freeze in horror. But that pair of black-robed figures unleashed all the bags from their waists without hesitation, muttering incantations under their breath. Instantly, a thick black mist mixed with gusts of sinister wind swarmed out from the mouths of the bags. In the blink of an eye, it covered a vast area ahead, forming a vast sea of dark mist, and within the mist, heads were bobbing. Armor plates glinted, vague and indistinct. It was as if an army was hidden within. Such an astonishing sight was naturally seen by the cultivators watching from the opposite side. Their faces couldn't help but turn grim. Long Han, in particular, furrowed his brow tightly. He sighed himself inwardly. After a short while, all the mist had been spewed from the bags. The army within the mist also slowly walked out, revealing its true form from within the mist. They were creatures clad in bronze armor, shriveled, fleshless refined corpses. Although these refined corpses swayed as they walked, the armor plates on their bodies clanked incessantly, but every single one had eyes that glowed with a green light, fangs exposed, with cultivation at foundation establishment or higher. The 3 tall corpse kings walking at the very front even possessed cultivation above the core formation stage. As their eyes moved, they revealed a high level of intelligence. How can there be so many bronze-armored corpses? There must be several thousand of them. A cultivator behind Long Han cried out in shock and anger. It's nothing. The Mulan people have the help of the Jin Nation's demonic sect. It's not surprising they have so many refined corpses. If this were the beginning of the war, we naturally wouldn't need to fear these things. But now, both we and the mage army are exhausted. If the battlefield is charged by these bronze-armored corpses, our heavenly south will surely be defeated. Our only choice is to go up and hold them off for a while, Long Han said coldly. Hearing this, the others looked at each other. They couldn't help but smile wryly. Even if we observing cultivators take action, the mages on the other side also have about the same number of people who have yet to make a move. Our defeat is still certain. As for the 3 great cultivators and the Mulan divine masters, although we don't know the outcome of their battle, we can still faintly hear the continuous rumbling from the sky above. We know the fight is still intense. Neither side will win easily. We can't count on the 3 great cultivators for help. Just as Lu Han and the other cultivators were helpless, and were about to make a move, a rumbling beastly roar suddenly echoed from the distance. Somewhere on the battlefield, a brilliant fluorescent light erupted. It was a dazzling sight. Then, within the brilliant light, a giant beast silently revealed its form. This giant ape was over 20 jong tall. Its entire body was as black as ink. Its fur was like swords, and its eyes were fiery red like lanterns. It was incredibly hideous. It was a strange giant ape, the likes of which had never been seen before. As soon as this giant ape appeared, it twisted its massive head and looked toward the copper-armored corpses in the distant black mist. Its 2 long arms suddenly pounded its own chest twice, letting out a long, excited roar from its mouth. Then it pushed off with all 4 limbs. After a few leaps, it closed in on the group of copper-armored corpses. When those copper-armored refined corpses saw the giant ape approaching, without needing any command, a portion of them soared into the air, simultaneously spraying gusts of black gas from their mouths and hands, forming a huge black cloud that swept towards the giant ape. The cultivation level of these corpses was not high, but with so many of them spraying corpse chet together, even a Nascent Soul stage cultivator would have to retreat for a moment, unfazed by the sharp offensive. A worthy opponent responds, but the giant ape showed no intention of dodging. Instead, it tilted its head back, pointing its large nose at the black she. It let out a soft snort. Two thick beams of yellow light erupted silently from the giant ape's nostrils with a snort, transforming into a yellow haze. It swept toward the black cloud as fast as lightning. In a single breath, the black cloud was like a great whale swallowing the sea. Completely unable to resist, it was engulfed by the yellow haze and drawn into the giant ape's massive mouth. These refined corpses possessed extremely low intelligence. Seeing this, they couldn't help but freeze in shock for a moment. Seizing the opportunity, the giant ape snorted continuously from its nostrils. The yellow haze billowed out, and this time, the glow sprayed directly onto these refined corpses. Wisps of black share rose from all the refined corpses, and were completely absorbed by the glowing mist. The refined corpses, now drained of their corpse cha, turned into lifeless objects one by one, and fell directly from the sky. They turned into puffs of gray smoke in midair, dissipating into nothingness. In an instant, several hundred of the levitating refined corpses were wiped out by the giant ape. The giant ape then stuck out its massive tongue and licked its upper lip. Then it fixed its greedy gaze upon the ground. As for the beast tamers, the ordinary ones were one thing. They had no concept of fear, and remained completely unmoved. But the three-corps formation stage lion kings stirred restlessly, hesitation and fear showing in their eyes. Meanwhile, the other cultivators and mages were left dumbfounded by the giant ape's divine ability. The woman in the black robe was even more horrified. She didn't even have time to say a word to the gaunt old man beside her. Her form suddenly transformed into a ball of yellow light, shooting straight towards the giant ape. Seeing the giant ape open its huge mouth, as a yellow globe began to form inside it again, she raised a hand in a flustered rage. With a whoosh, a streak of purple light transformed into a 10-foot-long giant blade, and slashed horizontally toward the giant ape. But before the giant blade could reach the giant ape, a faint clap of thunder suddenly rang out. A flash of silver lightning flickered. A young man in a green robe had bizarrely appeared on the giant ape's shoulder. This young man's cheeks were covered in blood-red scales, and an inch-high single horn grew from his head. He also raised a hand. A blue light shield shot out from his palm. With a loud clang, the blue and purple light clashed in a brilliant flash. The blue shield flew back, but the giant was also blocked, and that golden-robed youth was also on the giant ape's shoulder. His figure swayed slightly. A trace of surprise showed on his face. The youth looked towards the black-robed woman, and asked calmly. Then he rubbed his two hands together. A loud crackling of thunder erupted. Suddenly appearing on his body were countless golden arcs of lightning of varying thickness, leaping about ceaselessly, piercingly bright and dazzling. This youth was precisely Han Li. She was originally filled with rage. The black-robed woman, who was just about to unleash a demonic secret art, let out a sharp scream. Before she could even say anything, Han Li, however, waved his two hands. A startling net of lightning came crashing down on her with a rumble. A look of horror appeared in this woman's eyes. Her body then turned into a wisp of green smoke and shot backwards, narrowly avoiding the encirclement of the startling net. Han Li remained expressionless. The wind and thunder wings on his back suddenly unfurled. He abruptly vanished from his spot. When the black-robed woman saw this, she immediately recalled the rumors about Han Li. She hurriedly formed a hand seal with both hands. Her figure flickered lightly. Her form became a blur. 7 or 8 illusions. Identical women appeared, standing side by side. These women looked like real people, their movements synchronized. Suddenly, they scattered chaotically, fleeing swiftly in all directions. They all transformed into streaks of yellow light, making it impossible to tell which was the black-robed woman's true body. Silver electric arcs flashed. Amidst a faint clap of thunder, Han Li appeared where the woman had originally stood. She watched the numerous streaks of light scattering away. But she wasn't the least bit panicked. Instead, a cold smile touched the corner of her lips. She abruptly channeled spiritual power into her eyes. A blue glow flickered deep within her pupils. The divine ability of the bright-side spirit eyes was unleashed. Han Li raised a hand again, and looked into the distance. She saw that all the yellow streaks of light were dim. Their spiritual energy was faint. They were actually all illusions. Han Li was startled. She hurriedly glanced left and right, only to silently discover a shadow, though faint it was nearly invisible, was silently sneaking up on her from behind. The woman used these illusions to distract his attention, but her real body didn't mix in with them to escape. Instead, she took the opportunity to hide nearby to launch a sneak attack on him. This woman was truly audacious. If it weren't for his bright-side spirit eye's ability, he really would not have been able to spot her. This woman's escape technique was so advanced, it was probably not inferior to Yin Yu's. Han Li was quite shocked, but without a word, he turned and flew straight towards the giant ape. It seemed he had no intention of chasing the black-robed woman. The wisp of green smoke had already reached a few dozen feet behind Han Li. After a slight pause, the woman's figure appeared without a sound. One of her palms was glowing with a yellow light about an inch long. It thrust toward Han Li's back like a bolt of lightning. The attack was both precise and ruthless, aiming right for his heart. If this woman's strike had landed, his heart would have certainly been crushed to pieces. His physical body would have been destroyed. But just as the woman lashed out with her hand, Han Li's figure seemed to sway casually. Then, his face spun around at a speed imperceptible to the naked eye. He turned to face the woman directly. His mouth was slightly agape. A golden radiance was surging from it. Ah! The black-robed woman's face instantly turned deathly pale. He hurriedly dodged to the side. But it was too late. At such a close distance, there was simply no way to dodge. With a bang, a torrent of golden light erupted from Han Li's mouth. It struck the woman squarely on the shoulder. A scorched smell immediately filled the air. The woman let out a piercing scream and plummeted from the sky. Meanwhile, the twin wings on Han Li's back flashed. His figure vanished in a clap of thunder. Then he flickered and reappeared amidst a flash of lightning. Behind the falling woman, a palm covered in faint blue flames was gently pressed against the nape of the woman's neck. With a sizzle, a thick layer of blue ice encased her entire body. The woman in the black robe only felt a chill run through her body, and then she lost all sensation. Her entire body turned into an ice statue, plummeting straight down from the sky. Han Li hovered motionlessly in midair, but his other hand was already prepared. He unleashed countless fine arcs of electricity, forming a golden net, trapping the ice statue within it. A cold glint flashed across Han Li's face. The golden light around the ice statue flared intensely. Amidst a series of cracking sounds, the body of the woman in the black robe disintegrated into spakes of icy light, vanishing without a trace. The only thing remaining in the electric net, it was the nascent soul of a female cultivator with picturesque features. This nascent soul's face was deathly pale, as if it knew the power of the evil warding divine lightning. A look of absolute terror was on its face. A glint flashed in Han Ling's eyes. He flicked the golden net in his hand. He was about to destroy this nascent soul then and there. But the nascent soul of the black-robed woman suddenly let out a piercing shriek. "You can't kill me. I am the consort of the Yin Luo sect's master from the demonic path of the Jin state. If you kill me, my sect will hunt you to the death." The consort of the Yin Luo sect's master, hearing this, Han Ling stared coldly at the nascent soul for a moment. Then, without a word, he loosened the electric net in his hand. He turned as if to leave. The female cultivator's nascent soul was stunned for a moment. Then, overjoyed, it was about to fly out through the opening. But its mind was already filled with vicious thoughts of how to get revenge on Han Ling after escaping. But at that moment, Han Ling silently activated his spell. The golden net that had been loosened suddenly tightened. It instantly enveloped the female cultivator's nascent soul. Immediately, arcs of lightning crackled. It burst apart amidst a clap of thunder. The nascent soul of the black-robed woman was destroyed before it could even let out a final cry. And just like that, turned to ash and smoke. "I've already destroyed your physical body. Did you really think I'd let you go back for revenge?" Han Li muttered as if resigned to it. He let out a deep sigh. Then, without looking back, he flew towards the giant. From the moment the black-robed woman flew over to Han Li, the divine devilbane lightning, to annihilate her, it all seemed rather complex. But it all happened in an instant. The gaunt old man in the distance. It wasn't that he didn't want to go and rescue the woman. The very moment the woman was in peril, he had stomped his foot, transforming into a streak of golden light and shooting straight over. But just at that moment, suddenly from the other side, a streak of pink light shot out. It transformed into a large cloud of pink mist, and collided directly with the golden light. With a deep rumbling boom, although the cloud was struck and began to disperse, it still barely managed to block the golden light. The golden light faded, revealing the gaunt old man's figure. His face was utterly livid. He stared daggers at the pink mist opposite him. His eyes were blazing with fire. He really had no idea if the sect master of the Non-Yin Luo sect found out that his partner had been killed, just how furious he would become. He instantly despised Han Li and the person blocking the way, gritting his teeth in hatred. But from within the mist came a burst of sinister, effeminate laughter. Finally, the mist gradually dispersed, revealing the figure within. It was a handsome and effeminate young man, none other than old demon Yun Lu of the Hewan sect. fellow Taoist Han, you rescued me, so I will help you this one time. After this old man won't owe you a thing." The old demon chuckled sinisterly. He said, glancing sideways at Han Li. At that moment, Han Li had just slain the black-robed woman, and was just flying back. Hearing his words, he replied indifferently, "Rescuing you, fellow Taoist, was merely a coincidence. This Han never expected any repayment from you. However, these divine masters before us, I'm afraid the two of us are no match for them. Besides, fellow Taoist, did you really think they came alone?" After saying this, Han Li's gaze swept past the withered old man. He saw that aside from the black-robed people still controlling the corpse puppets, who were desperately dodging the giant ape's slaughter, a dense, dark mass of magic users was already pressing forward from the opposite side. Even someone as audacious as old demon Yunlu, upon seeing so many magic users charging toward them, his expression could not help but change. This old devil was someone Han Li, from among numerous cyan firebirds, had to use 2 thunder pearls in a row to barely manage to save. Just as Han Li was preparing to team up with this old devil and consider their next move, the Yingluo sect released a large batch of copper-armored, refined corpses. As a result, before Han Li could even do anything, Tian, inside the spirit beast pouch at his waist, immediately started to stir. It appeared to be unusually excited, and because he had completely refined the bright soul pearl, he could naturally sense it very clearly. He immediately let it out of curiosity. As a result, Tian emerged from the spirit beast pouch, and its body immediately grew wildly, transforming into a black ape. It began to madly inhale those refined corpses. This greatly surprised Han Li as well. The fact that the Tian beast could devour frightening soul demonic ghosts was something Han Li was well aware of, but for it to also have an effect on refined corpses made by cultivators, that was somewhat unexpected. He didn't know if this was an innate ability the Tian beast always had, or a strange divine power it gained after evolving. But regardless, this was a pleasant surprise for Han Li. But now, facing so many of these magical corpses surrounding them, after Han Li and Matriarch Yunlu exchanged a glance, the thought of retreating immediately arose in their hearts. But that soul-lifting beast was still rampaging wildly among the group of refined corpses. To just abandon this beast here, Han Li was 100% against it. Just as Han Li was about to use the bright soul pearl to control the soul-lifting beast, and stealthily recall it, a loud laugh suddenly came from behind them. "Don't be afraid, fellow Taoist Han, since you have this helpful beast that can deal with these refined corpses. Leave these people to us to handle." Hearing the voice, it was indeed Long Han's. Han Li's heart stirred. He quickly looked back, only to see dozens of yards away. Long Han had also moved there with a group of cultivators. They had just stopped their travel light and were sizing them up. Han Li was overjoyed internally. No wonder these mages didn't attack them immediately. It seems they also saw the reinforcements behind them, which is why they were acting so cautiously. When Long Han saw Han Li's somewhat demonized appearance, a look of surprise flashed in his eyes, but he immediately pretended not to see it and acted as if nothing was wrong. Now was not the time to get to the bottom of things. The cultivators all looked towards the mages on the opposite side. At this moment on the entire battlefield, after a bitter struggle, some battle groups were finally starting to decide winners and losers. There were wins and losses on both sides. For the most part, both sides had sustained similar damage. But this was no friendly exchange of skills. The losers, of course, would most likely lose their lives. But even the victors, though completely exhausted, and with their spiritual power mostly depleted, were still quickly drawn into new battles. Long Han had just sent other cultivators to Fungbing and Bai Din, to the female cultivators' battle group in the field, to relieve her partner. Only when the two of them, the couple, joined forces, could they truly unleash their full potential. With things having come to this, neither Long Han nor the withered beast elder had anything left to say. Long Han gave a light wave to the opposing side. The cultivators held in reserve until now were, of course, all elite units. Immediately, the cultivators behind him erupted with spiritual light, unleashing all kinds of magic treasures. They attacked with overwhelming force. The mages on the other side were no ordinary folk either. Unwilling to be outdone, they also summoned various spiritual energies. Instantly, the last of fresh forces of the cultivators and mages clashed violently with each other. Although the enemy had one extra late-stage Nascent Soul master, this side had old demon Yunlu, Long Han, and 3 or 4 other mid-stage Nascent Soul cultivators fighting together, so they could just barely manage to hold them off. Not yet. He had originally intended to join the siege against the withered beast elder, but after Twilight glanced toward the battle with the azure flames. He took one look, and his expression remained calm. He saw the Tian 7 cultivators and the Yin-Yang twin devils joining forces to fight against Mu Lancheng. But after just a short while, they were once again at a disadvantage. The twin devils were still holding on. The devilish techniques they cultivated were exceptionally strange. The gusts of Dampian wind they released together still allowed them to barely protect themselves within those azure fierce flames. But the Tian 7 cultivators, with their spiritual power greatly diminished, were finally unable to hold on. This was especially true for two of the elders. One's face was blood red, his spiritual light flickering erratically. The other's face was as pale as a sheet, with white vapor pulsing irregularly from his mouth and nose. This was clearly a sign of excessive spiritual power consumption, or even of having used a secret technique to stimulate their potential. Han Li's brow furrowed. He looked at the crowd of cultivators before him, then glanced into the distance at the woman surnamed Le, who was guarding the ancient object, not moving a single step from her post. You keep a close watch on the soul-crying beast. Don't let anything happen to it. If it's in real danger, recall it first. This is a bright soul pearl. You can borrow this for now. I'll go extinguish that ancient lamp first, Han Li said calmly in a nearly inaudible voice. Then, with a flick of his hand, he tossed a blackish-gray bead behind him. A faint white light flashed. Juzi vanished in an instant. Master, please be extra careful. That peacock's divine abilities are truly formidable. From an empty spot behind Han Li, Kamian used worried words. Han Li nodded, his expression as calm as ever. When he saw that no one else nearby had noticed, his figure blurred for a moment, and he suddenly vanished on the spot. It was the nameless chair refining art from the demon clan. Perhaps in terms of concealment and hiding one's tracks, it couldn't compare to Yin Yu's innate escape technique. But when it came to concealing one's aura, it was not the least bit inferior. He pushed the nameless art to its absolute limit. Not only was his body's spiritual check completely contained without a trace, even the aura he himself emitted was forcibly suppressed. Now, he had to hide from more than just the vicious woman, but also that Mulan Saintis with her unfathomably deep cultivation. In the distance, the vicious woman saw that the emaciated old man and his companions were also tied down by Long Han and the other cultivators. A look of anxiety faintly appeared on his face, although he was still guarding the ancient lamp and had not left. But he turned his head towards the giant bird on the other side, and shouted a few words in an ancient language. His face showed a hint of pleading. That demon bird spitting out pure flames. Upon hearing these words, its expression faltered for a moment. Then it twisted its neck, and glanced sideways at the battle group of the withered old man and the others. A trace of disdain actually appeared in its bird-like eyes. It immediately turned its attention back, and fiercely spat a few more balls of essence flamed downwards, pushing Tian and Kik Su and the others into another state of panic. Then, with a clear cry, it suddenly spread its wings and soared high. After circling once, the bird shook lightly in the direction of the old man. The glazed, fiery plumes on its body, large patches of cyan feathers detached from the bird's body, fell down and then flashed with light, transforming into cyan firebirds, each about a foot long. These several hundred firebirds needed no one to command them. After a round of chirping, they flapped their wings and shot towards the withered old man and the others. When the woman named Yue saw this scene, her heart was finally put at ease. With the help of these conjured spirit birds, surely, the old man's side would be fine now. Victory was only a matter of time. Just as the woman's guard began to lower, a deafening rumble echoed from the center of the battlefield. The vicious woman's mind filled with shock and doubt. Han Li, who had just flown forth, hastily looked over. He was cautiously approaching the woman's position. Hearing the sound, he too looked over with some surprise. He saw that in the center of the battlefield, another crucial confrontation was underway. Over there, dozens of Ghost Spirit Sect disciples were working together, driving the Myriad Soul Grand Formation, which had finally come to a halt. The ghostly creature it had formed was floating motionlessly in the air. Blocking the path of the ghostly creature was a spirit-accumulating beast summoned by several Mulan Grand Masters through their combined efforts. That was the giant, sky-propping stone man. This puppet-like stone giant, under the command of the Mulan Masters, had defeated the other besieging Heavenly South cultivators. With no other enemies nearby, it had naturally blocked the Ghost Spirit Sect cultivators hiding inside the Myriad Soul Grand Formation, and the loud noise from just a moment ago was from this stone giant, urged on by the Mulan spellcasters, as it struck down with its palm towards the ghostly creature. Before the palm even arrived, countless millstone-sized rocks came tumbling down from between its 5 fingers. Even the Ghost Spirit Sect cultivators inside the Myriad Soul Formation, no matter how confident they were in their defensive stance, They would never dare to face these massive attacks head-on. With a sudden roar, they manipulated the ghost house to charge forward, but when it had shot forward for several dozen yards, it stopped again. As the battle had raged on until this point, both the spellcasters and the cultivators all understood that the battle had reached its most critical juncture. Therefore, an elder of the ghost spirit sect presiding over the soul-gazing formation, after only a brief moment of deliberation, decided to unleash this formation's ultimate killing move at any cost. Before their pursuers could even get close, from within the ghost house, the ghost spirit sect cultivators began a low, torrential chant. A blood-curdling scream echoed from within the mist. A beam of blood-red light shot up into the sky from the mist. Finally, as if by contagion, the gloomy, black mist suddenly turned blood-red amidst the chanting, becoming utterly sinister. The two Mulan High Masters standing on the man-eating spire saw this scene, and a look of astonishment appeared in both their eyes. A moment later, the torrential chanting stopped abruptly. Then, after the blood mist churned for a moment, dozens of streaks of light in various colors shot out from the mist as if fleeing for their lives. They were precisely those cultivators of the ghost spirit sect. This made the two Mulan mages even more utterly confused. At that moment, the blood creature abandoned by the ghost spirit sect cultivator came to life on its own. It sprouted tentacles of various sizes and began to writhe wildly in place. Its center rapidly shrank and condensed. Meanwhile, the ghost spirit sect elder, who was overseeing the myriad soul formation, after flying about 150 to 200 feet away, circled once and came to a halt. He glanced back at the blood creature with a strange expression, thinking to himself, having absorbed the essence blood of so many mages, plus a willing human cauldron for the blood sacrifice, it shouldn't fail this time. Just as this ghost spirit sect elder was feeling uneasy, the stone giant's movements also slowed for a moment, and was squirming incessantly. Seeing this, the two Mulan mages controlling the stone giants hardened their resolve, deciding to act regardless of the consequences they were about to urge the stone giant beneath them to stomp down hard. Suddenly, an eerie wind rose from nowhere. It was gloomy and murky, and bone-chillingly cold. It made it nearly impossible to see. The stone giant's movements also slowed down inadvertently, but it returned to normal in an instant. By the time the Mulan mages' vision cleared and they looked over again, but they disappointedly discovered that the area of the blood mist was completely surrounded by a hazy yellow yin wind, making it impossible to see the situation inside clearly at all. But just at that moment, the yellow wind let out a screech and was forcibly torn open. Then, a blood-red shadow shot out from within. After the two Mulan High Masters saw the shadow's face clearly, their expressions changed and they gasped in shock. It was a blood-red, bloodthirsty fiend with a ravenous appetite. This fiend had the curved horns on its head, and a horse-like tail. Its two rows of fangs gleamed, exceptionally sharp, on its arms, which were as thick as tree trunks. It was covered by a layer of fine, semi-transparent scales. Its 10 fingers were as sharp as daggers. However, compared to an ordinary cultivator, this fiend was already a behemoth, but compared to the stone giant that was nearly 1,000 feet tall, it was nothing. But this fiend showed no fear at all. The moment it appeared, it threw its head back and let out a sharp laugh, then stared at the stone giant with a cold glint in its eyes. He crouched down slightly and shot out like an arrow from a bow. In an instant, it reached the stone giant's calf. One of its demonic claws spread its 5 fingers and viciously swiped at the stone giant's leg. Large chunks of rubble immediately began to fall. The two Mulan Grand Masters would naturally not allow it to continue like this. Immediately, the stone giant's 2 massive hands clenched into fists and punched down fiercely. Its movement was as fast as lightning. The blood bone was knocked back dozens of yards. Even half of its head was blown clean off. But the undead creature flipped over and stood up again as if nothing had happened. Its broken head flashed with a bloody light and was restored to normal. Then it charged toward the stone giant again. The two Mulan Grand Masters controlling the stone giant were both shocked and furious. While controlling the ethereal beast and Zesita they were riding, they also released their own magic treasures to assist in the attack from the side. The battle was joined in an instant, and those cultivators from the ghost spirit sect who had originally fled now turned back around. Without any hesitation, they joined the siege against the stone giant and the Mulan Masters. The area was filled with constant rumbling. Bloody light flickered endlessly. The wicked woman saw this and frowned. Her gaze flickered as she stared at the situation there. Without saying a word, as a great Grand Master of the Mulan, he naturally knew the great power of this stone giant. Seeing the cultivator from Tian Nan summon a ghostly creature that was holding its own against the man-eater without being at a disadvantage, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. However, he wasn't overly worried about it. As long as the 10 people could hold on for a little while longer, the Mulan he had summoned could then annihilate those few opponents. At that point, victory would be secured. As the woman thought this to herself, she glanced again at the magnificent bird not far away. It seemed this monstrous bird also knew it was a critical moment. It finally mobilized all of its fire spiritual chi, turning the area within a 1,000-foot radius into a sea of azure flames. And with a surprise flap of its serrated wings just now, it had even broken the joint effort of those 7 elders. And Shuangmu, the sea of fire beneath it instantly split into 2 sections, trapping the 2 groups separately within. Then, it used a small part of its focus to deal with Shuangmu, while the majority of its effort was focused on the Taijin 7. This caused the 7 elders of the Taijin sect to cry out in misery inwardly. Their lives could be lost at any moment. Seeing this situation, the woman's heart eased. She turned and looked at the 9 ancient lamps in front of her. Seeing that the oil inside was still half full, she felt even more reassured. Then, the woman raised a delicate eyebrow. After her eyes narrowed, her hand moved as fast as lightning. Plucking a petal of flame from an ancient lamp, she waved it gently in her hand, and it vanished in a flash of pure light. And in a place over 100 yards away, a golden light flashed. A cry of alarm was heard. A person was forced out of hiding. His body shimmered with pure light, encased by a layer of light transformed from the lamp's flame, illuminating him completely. Then, the vicious woman, without even lifting her head, made a pinching gesture with one hand. With a soft pop, the man spontaneously combusted within the pure light. He only had time for a single, wretched scream, before being instantly reduced to ashes by that terrifying flame.